Hi, everybody. I'm Brittany Lewis, a reporter here at Forbes. Joining me now is my colleague, Justin Birnbaum, staff writer on the Sports Money team. Justin, thanks so much for coming.
Thanks for having me, Brittany.
Forbes' list of the world's highest paid soccer players for 2024 is out. So first, a big congratulations to you because you are the mastermind behind the list. But before we get to it, I want you to give us a number here. How much money did the world's 10 highest paid soccer players make?
So we're projecting that the 10 highest paid soccer players in the world are going to earn a combined $983 million for the upcoming 24-25 season. It's a modest 2% rise over the number we put out last year, but the important thing to remember is this is just a massive elevation from the record a few years ago, which was around $650 million. So the numbers are way up in the last few years, and there's a couple interesting reasons behind that.
Well, we will get into those reasons behind that because it is flirting with $1 billion. I mean, that is huge. So who topped the list this year, and where did their earnings come from?
Yeah, so I don't think anybody is going to be surprised to hear this, but the highest paid soccer player in the world that we're projecting for the upcoming season is Cristiano Ronaldo. He topped the list with $285 million in projected total earnings. About $220 million of that comes on the field from this massive deal he has to play in the Saudi Pro League with his Saudi Pro League club Al Nassr, and he earns, we estimate, $65 million off the field. So Ronaldo tops it again. It's the second year in a row, the sixth time in the last decade. He's a global figure, still, even though he's 39 years old, a very productive player on the pitch, and yeah.
So financially, no one compares to Ronaldo on this list, but move down a bit for us. Go through the top 5 aside from him. Who are they?
Yeah, so coming in at number 2 is Lionel Messi, his longtime rival on the other side of the greatest of all time debate. We have him at $135 million in projected total earnings. He's obviously playing for Inter Miami over in Major League Soccer now. At number 3 and number 4, you have a pair of guys playing in the Saudi Pro League. The first is Neymar, who we have at $110 million in projected total earnings, and then Karim Benzema, who is $104 million projected total earnings. And then at number 5, a former number 1 of the list is Kylian Mbappe, who now plays in Real Madrid. We have him at $90 million in total earnings.
You broke down the list in a really interesting way. You break down what the players make on the field and what they make off the field. So who is the player who makes the top amount of money off the field?
So that would be Lionel Messi. We estimate that he's at $75 million annually off the field. And, he's had a really interesting trajectory. He's obviously, an incredibly great player. He's in the greatest of all time debate. He's won a trophy case full of Ballon d'Ors, given to the best, soccer player every year. He's had a lot of success in the last few years. He won the World Cup. He won the Copa America again, the second time in his career with Argentina, both with Argentina. And this move that he made to the U.S. in July of 2023 has really supercharged him as well. Obviously, he was a very global figure. He was popular in South America, popular in Europe, but this has been a chance for him to really expose himself to the American audience. And he's ushered in kind of a revolution in Miami. It's changed the trajectory of Major League Soccer, and a lot of people are optimistic that it's going to keep going and going.
So aside from Major League Soccer, what other leagues around the world are represented on this year's list?
So the Saudi Pro League claims the most spots with 4 players. We mentioned Ronaldo. There's also Sadio Mane, Karim Benzema, and Neymar. The Premier League, the English Premier League, has 3 players on the list with Erling Haaland, Kevin De Bruyne, and Mohamed Salah. Then La Liga in Spain has 2, but they're both on the same club, which is why I hesitated there for a second because I almost said Real Madrid first. And that's Kylian Mbappe and Vinicius Jr. And then Messi is the lone representative from Major League Soccer.
So talk a little bit about how Saudi Arabia's push into soccer affects the money flowing into the sport.
Yeah, so last year, starting with Ronaldo, who agreed to go to Saudi in December and then eventually joined the club in January of last year, we saw this major push of the Saudi Pro League bringing players over. Last year, during the summer transfer window, they spent roughly $1 billion on new player acquisitions, which is just an insane number for a country that, was hardly a soccer power before this. It's been an interesting step for them because obviously they're an economy that's been, so tied up in oil and kind of other things, and they've wanted to diversify away more towards tourism, entertainment, And investing in their soccer league was a way of doing that. We saw a similar thing in golf as well with the Live Golf League and how they were doing that. They've also made, entrances in boxing and other sports as well. Esports is another one too where they're big. So they were kind of doing this thing where they were diversifying and investing in these players. They brought over, a ton of stars. They brought over Ronaldo, they brought over Neymar, they brought over Benzema. And with the amount of money they weren't just paying for these players, but what they were paying to the players, it dwarfs many of the figures we see in other leagues across the sport. So that's kind of the obvious reason why, you see so many Saudi players on this list is because last year, these guys signed these massive contracts and they're still paying.
So your list shows that Saudi Arabia is investing hundreds of millions into their players, but your story says that they've slowed their investment a bit. So why is that?
So you can kind of look at macroeconomic reasons. And for one, the price of oil is languishing a little bit. And also, Saudi Arabia has committed to a lot of these mega projects that are going to cost billions and billions of dollars. And even for their $925 billion sovereign wealth fund, that's left them, cash strapped to a degree. But the reality is they've kind of come back down to earth. I believe transfer spending this summer was somewhere between 500 and 600 million. I had the exact number in the story. It was, 524, if I remember correctly. But in reality, they're just not going to sign the best players every summer. I know, there were reports, or a spokesman had said something to that effect. But also, they haven't necessarily seen massive changes from the investments they've made. One of the sources I talked to had said, they're not seeing this attendance bump that they expected when they brought over all these stars. They've seen interest in other different things, but it hasn't directly translated. So, they can't spend like this forever. Obviously there's going to be a point where the investments they make are going to have to pay off. And also it's not just getting star players. They have to develop the infrastructure of the league, the young talent of the league. They have to export their own stars as well. So it's kind of a balance of those things. And, it's hard to say. Obviously Saudi Arabia has put a lot into this project and want to be competitive in global soccer. So for all we know, they could ramp up the spending again. And obviously when Mohamed Salah, his contract in Liverpool ends, he's from Egypt, he's got ties to the Middle East. He's someone who could be a very expensive and lucrative target for them. So it's possible that, they could ramp it back up again. But, for all those reasons, we've seen it come down.
Based on your reporting, it sounds like it's a good time to be a professional soccer player. The highest paid players in the world are making a combined almost $1 billion together. So what makes it now such a lucrative time to be a professional soccer player?
Well, for one, there's a lot more money flowing into sports than there were years ago. And part of that's driven by, broadcast rights, other new revenue streams that are popping up. But also I think, one of the things that's really bolstering the cases of these guys is just how much of a celebrity you are when you're on the global soccer scene. Ronaldo has almost 1 billion followers between Instagram, Facebook, and X, formerly Twitter. And he recently started a YouTube channel, and he got to 1 million subscribers in 90 minutes, which set a record, and now he's got over 500 million views on a very small amount of videos, relatively speaking, and 65 million followers or so. But you see just how valuable these guys are with their audiences. Messi has 500 million Instagram followers. You see him you go down to Miami, you see him on every billboard, or so. So these guys have massive platforms. They can earn massive money off the field. On the field, their clubs are making more and more and more in certain cases. The Premier League has a great, media rights deal that extends out to the U.S. too, in addition to their domestic rights deals. So there's more money flowing in, and the one caveat I should mention is that, there are financial fair play rules where you can only spend relative to what you make. So as long as these clubs keep finding ways to make more money, you'll be able to spend more money. So, yeah.
Justin Birnbaum, I appreciate the reporting. Thanks so much for coming in.
Thanks for having me.